Okay, to start, I would like to share with you my personal history on this topic. I was the typical boy who was continually anxious, and I canalized this anxiety through eating and through drinking coffee since very young. I wasn't able of studying for more than a short period of time. My projects only started, but never ended, and my anxiety was reflected on my social relations. I stopped eating sugar, and even when the first month was really mentally difficult, I were able to pass this stage, and now my anxiety levels are lower than ever. Most people underestimate the effect of sugar on themselves, because it's so normalized in our culture and looks so harmless. But in our natural diet, you never find sugar in the amounts and in the ways that we are used to nowadays. And the truth is that sometimes changing something that easy as eating less sugar can be the beginning of the butterfly effect that we all need to radically change our lives. Because being anxious or depressed can ruin your social relations and your projects, worsening the situation. The aiming of this video is show you the conclusions of the research I've made about how sugar affects to the anxiety and the depression levels. I'll explain what's the evidence of why sugar makes you so anxious or even depressed using studies, which are the sources of sugar and similars that are hidden in your diet, and how to solve this problem without realizing of it. I firmly believe that we all need strong education in nutrition to avoid these problems. I hope you enjoy this video. I think for some can be really helpful. Just give me a few seconds to introduce you why I think anxiety and depression is a real society issue. Anxiety disease is the most common mental issue in the United States, affecting to about 40 million Americans, or about an 18% of the total population. This is exponentially growing. We can find it out in Google Trends. In US, the search term anxiety is growing exponentially over the last years. But this doesn't only happen in the United States, but also in the whole world. In the worldwide map, the countries with the highest search index in anxiety and depression disorders are US, Canada, UK, Ireland, Australia, and New Zealand. Anxiety and depression can even lead some people to commit suicide. Among individuals reporting a lifetime history of suicide attempt, over 70% have an anxiety disorder. That's definitely not a joke. Even if you don't have anxiety or depression, better to have the studies I'm about to show you in consideration. Because you never know when the circumstances will change and then can be too late. Let me start with a day-to-day scenario for parents, since kids can be a good example in this case. Have you ever realized that when you give a candy bar to a kid, he's going to start running and he won't be able to stop moving? That's dopamine. A similar thing happened to adults. The only difference is that we are more used to it. The counterpart is that when sugar levels decrease, our body starts asking for more sugar, and we feel a bit depressed or anxious. And then, as well as kids, we start needing more sugar. So the first point is that sugar leads you to highs and lows. This is reflected on your mood and your energy levels over the day. This happens because, like drugs, sugar spikes dopamine release in the nucleus accumbens. Over the long term, regular sugar consumption actually changes the gene expression and the availability of the dopamine receptors. That's what makes you need even more sugar for feel the same. In short, this means that repeated access to sugar over the time leads to prolonged dopamine signaling, greater excitation of the brain's reward pathways, and a need for even more sugar to activate all of the mind-brain dopamine receptors like before. The brains become tolerant to sugar and is more needed to attain the same sugar high. At this point, I'm going to show you 3 experiments that show how addicting is sugar and what happens when you stop eating it suddenly. The first experiment goes like this. Rats are deprived from food for 12 hours each day, then given 12 hours of access to sugary solution and regular chow. After a month of following this daily pattern, rats display behaviors similar to those on drugs abuse. They'll binge on sugar solution in a short period of time, much more than their regular food, They also show signs of anxiety and depression during the food deprivation period. There is another study where the addicting effect of sugar is compared to the addicting effect of cocaine in mice. In this study, mice were first able to taste the two substances twice, and then they were able to choose between cocaine and sugar mutually exclusive. So they were able to choose one at a time. And guess what? Mice strongly preferred sugar over cocaine. That's incredible. Now let's analyze this in our interest. First, how this can affect your anxiety levels. Just imagine, your brain ends up being so addicted to sugar that it's always looking for obtaining it. You can feel like you need something that you don't know what exactly it is. You never feel satisfied, leading to worrying and anxiety. In fact, there are other studies that study the effects of reprieving sugar in rats who had undergone a typical sugar dependence protocol. This led to physical problems, including teeth chattering, paw tremors, and head shaking. Rats also report behaviors similar to depression in tasks such as forced swimming tests. Rats in sugar withdrawal are more likely to show passive behaviors like floating than active behaviors like trying to escape when placed in water, suggesting feelings of helplessness. And also consider that sugar not only generates anxiety and depression, but also can generate diabetes, because it spikes the insulin levels suddenly, lower energy levels leading to procrastination, overweight, cholesterol, and the most worrying, increases the probability of having cancer. What's positive about eating sugar? Just that tastes good? I mean, that's a really naive perspective. But maybe you are those that don't eat refined sugar directly, but it's still feeling like those that are eating a lot of sugar. That's because you are eating things that contain a lot of hidden sugar. For example, pasta sauces, yogurts, instant oatmeal, salad dressing, breakfast cereals, and, well, much more. But the important point here is that you have to check the nutritional label back on your products. But even, there are some products that still have similar effect than sugar when they don't directly contain sugar. How to detect them? There is something called glycemic index. The glycemic index is a number starting from 0 and being 100 the pure glucose, which represents the rise of glucose levels up to 2 hours after consuming that food. The glycemic index, in fact, is the quotient between the area of the food we are studying and the area of the glucose in the same period of time. Sugar has a glycemic index of 68 according to the GL database, although this number can vary highly depending on its composition. That's because it's also composed of fructose that has a glycemic index of 18. Pasta can have a glycemic index as high as 70 when it's made of soft wheat. White rice has a glycemic index of 73, white wheat bread 75, and cornflakes up to 81. After all of this, I'm sure you're thinking you have nothing to do. That's not true, but you can neither have a radical change in your diet suddenly. You doesn't need to stop eating natural sugar like the one that comes from fruits. What you need is to reduce the glycemic index of your foods. For example, fruits contain sugar, but also contains fructose and a lot of fiber, leading to a lower glycemic index. Being more specific, an apple has a glycemic index of 36, about the half of the table sugar. That means that your body processes this sugar slowly, avoiding peaks of dopamine and insulin. Of course, you won't eat just apples, but are much more other foods that you can eat. For example, lentils, that have a glycemic index as low as 21, and also contain a lot of proteins. Chickpeas have a glycemic index of 28, and lettuce as low as 15. You just need to make a bit of research. It's impossible to have a perfect diet, and you don't need to be obsessed with it, but it can always be better than it's right now. Remember that the best practice is to put yourself in the hands of a professional if you are feeling the mental illness described. If you think this video was helpful for you, please press the like button and subscribe. And if you think it can be helpful for somebody you know can be suffering this kind of disease, please share this video with him. I would also like to have feedback from you in the comments below. Thank you and see you in the next video.